Hey, musical humans and other humans and beings in outer space who may be receiving this transmission light years in the future. I am Robert.
And I'm Josh.
He's still pointing at you, and this is another conversation.
Between me and Robert and I.
I would imagine that they would have picked up on that.
Yeah? Oh, yeah, for sure.
So you know what's happening, Josh? Band camp.
Band camp. Best time of year.
It is the best time of year, but you know what happens at band camp time?
The kids get sunburnt and they're sweaty.
This happens, but also there are some students who didn't practice.
I don't know if that happens, but go on.
And then they'll take their instrument out of the case, and then you know what?
Ooh, yeah. If it's sitting around for a while, it might not work.
Yeah, so I thought maybe we'd have a conversation about how to properly maintain your instrument and keep it up and running, and what the difference between a repair and maintenance is.
Right. Yeah, I agree. That's important. So for me, as a trumpet player, brass player, I do try to get my horn out regularly, even if I'm not playing, make sure all the valves and slides.
What do you mean you're not playing?
Well, I might be on vacation.
You practice every day.
Well, yeah, I do.
I'd like to make that clear. He practices every day
So,
for the purposes of the internet.
Like, hypothetically, if I didn't play, for the purposes of the internet, hypothetically, if I didn't play for a few days, I would make sure to get my horn out, make sure my valves and slides are moving, oil it if they needed to. Every couple months, I give my trumpet a little bath at home, take it apart. I bought just a simple brass care kit, has some brushes and things, rinse things off some lukewarm water, dry it off, put it back together, re-oil it. And that's something I do every couple months.
Now, is that something that someone can learn to do themselves? I mean, obviously, you've been in this kind of business for a long time and played the trumpet even longer.
Yeah.
But is that something that a student could learn and safely do at home?
Yeah, this is something I've been doing since high school for sure. And there's a lot of good content on there. I think we even put some stuff together a couple years ago, some videos and stuff that can help you clean your instrument.
Yeah, so there you go.
But
so how's that different from like a repair then? Right? Like a repair is when your instrument doesn't work.
Right.
Right? And then is it safe to say that like this maintenance stuff is how you keep your instrument working?
Yeah, for sure. And like, if your instrument doesn't work, you know it doesn't work, right? You're going to pull it out and try to play it.
If you practice.
So if it doesn't work, my first recommendation would be just to get it into a shop. Get it into the shop to get it looked at.
So I interrupted you. So beyond the cleaning that you do at home, and those tools and accessories you need are available, like packaged as a care kit, right? Like beyond that, what do you do to keep your brass instrument up and running?
Well, for me, it's with my trumpet playing regularly. Even with cleanings, like once every couple of months, I still get it in about once a year for a full, thorough cleaning in the repair shop. So there's some deposits and stuff that build up in the horn that you just can't get out at home with the brushes and stuff.
Right. Yeah, and there's something to be said, too, for the process that's utilized to keep those brass instruments clean. That's come a long way as well, and it's important maybe to ask if you're getting your instrument serviced, how it's being cleaned. There are still products on the market. There are places that use things like chromic acid. You'll often hear the term bright dip used. Like these are very harsh acids or chemicals that are not entirely environmentally friendly, not entirely horn friendly. While they do a good job over time, maybe not as horn friendly as some of the more modern things, which would be like an ultrasonic cleaning and a biodegradable solution, which is kind of the thing that we do here at A&G Central Music. I think that's becoming the industry standard now. But yeah, that'll get those calcium deposits out of your horn, like anything that builds up, any gook in the horn.
On a brass instrument, that's 99% of the problem that you ever have, unless you drop it or something.
Right, like keeping it clean keeps the slides moving, the valves moving properly, right? But then when you have that ultrasonic cleaning, I believe that part of that also is like, there are parts on all brass instruments are going to wear the felts that are under your buttons.
Right.
The bumpers, if you have a rotary valved horn, water key cork, stuff like that. It's good to have that stuff changed out at least on the yearly as well. Right?
Well then, here's my two questions for you. One, what about woodwind instruments?
Okay. Well, with a woodwind instrument, they're slightly different from the brass instruments in that every time we're finished playing, we can swab out the inside of the instrument fairly easily. Right, by pulling either a swab or a cleaning rod through the instrument. And that's going to keep some of the gook that you get in brass instruments from building up.
Every time.
But there's still regular maintenance and cleaning that needs to be done. Students should swab those instruments out every time they're completed playing, and then wiping down the outside of the instrument with a soft, like a microfiber cloth or a polishing cloth that, they're readily available, keeps dirt from building up on the outside of the instrument and the keys.
Right.
That said, though, much like your brass instrument, the woodwind instruments need to come in at least once a year, because all of the keys on a woodwind instrument, those key rods pivot around pivot points that are lubricated. And that lubricant's an attractor for dirt and dust. So the inside of the key rods can get dirt in them, and it can cause them to freeze. The actual pivot point can get kind of piled up with dirt and grit.
Right.
And both of those things are enemies to the working of your instrument. The dirt might slow down the action or freeze it up altogether, and that grit could potentially wear down the metal on those pivot points. So you want to get all of that cleaned off. So having the instrument in for a cleaning of the mechanism at least once a year is really important. Sometimes that can be confused. People talk about, I just want the instrument cleaned, meaning they want it shined.
Right.
That's kind of an aesthetic thing that that can be done as well. It can be disassembled and shined up and polished, but to keep it operating properly, having that mechanism cleaned and swabbing it out yourself is really important.
And taking those mechanisms apart is not something that you would recommend the kids to be doing at home.
That's something that you don't want to do at home. The swabbing of your instrument on the inside after every time you play, very, very important, and obviously you have what you need to do that right in your case. And then wiping the instrument down is the other maintenance that you can do at home.
We'll take care of the rest here.
Yep.
And speaking of which, you're pretty familiar with the workings of an instrument repair shop. When should we be getting these instruments in here over the summer?
The summertime, to begin with, is a good time. If you're in high school, I like to see that stuff come in before band camp. There's a case that could be made to use your instrument at band camp because it's gonna be outside and it's gonna take a little extra abuse maybe.
Right.
So there's something to be said for bringing it after that. But you definitely want to have it done before you go back to school.
Right.
And I feel like you want your instrument to be functioning at its best for band camp. So if you're in high school or if you're in a middle school that allows you to participate in the high school marching band, you want to have that work done probably before your band camp. Everybody else, before you go back to school.
Right. Just at least a couple weeks before school.
You been busy?
Yeah, not so bad. How about you?
Did a lot of stuff. Took a vacation, went up north. I think we talked about that.
Oh yeah. What's that sound?
Yeah. Well, remember how last time we talked, you told me that you knew what a Sasquatch sounded like?
Oh yeah, like a whoop, whoop, whoop.
Turns out that's not correct.
It's terrifying.